Imagine this. You wake up one day, and it hits you that your life has never been a straight line of your own choices, but a sequence of reactions you never fully questioned. Not because someone controlled you from the outside, but because something inside your own mind has been quietly deciding before you even realized a decision was made. Before you reject that idea, consider this. In a well-known psychology experiment, people were given simple tasks, but subtle changes were made in their environment without their awareness. Those tiny shifts were enough to influence their behavior, even though they believed every choice was completely their own. This reveals one of the most unsettling truths about the human mind. We don't always choose first and explain later. Often, we act first and build the explanation afterward. Carl Jung believed there is a hidden layer of the mind called the unconscious, far more powerful than the conscious mind we identify with. According to him, we don't just think our way through life. We are shaped by forgotten memories, emotional wounds, childhood experiences, fears, desires, and conditioning we rarely notice. The problem is not that these forces exist. The problem is that most people never become aware of them. And in today's world, this has become even more intense. Social media predicts what you watch. Algorithms learn what keeps you scrolling. Notifications interrupt your thoughts before they fully form. And slowly, reacting starts replacing choosing. So the real question becomes, what if the life you call your personality is just a collection of unconscious patterns you've never questioned? Carl Jung spent his entire life trying to answer that question, and his answer might completely change the way you see yourself. I've divided this video into a total of 7 parts for your convenience and curiosity. So before starting the video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to subscribe right now. Hit the like button. Watch this video till the end because each part is going to take your understanding to the next level. Part 01. What Jung meant by the unconscious. When people hear the word unconscious, they usually think of being asleep or passed out. Carl Jung meant something completely different. He believed the unconscious is the invisible part of your mind that constantly influences your thoughts, emotions, and decisions without asking for your permission. Think about driving a familiar route. Have you ever reached your destination and realized you barely remembered the journey? Your brain handled hundreds of actions automatically, while your conscious attention was somewhere else. Jung believed much of life works the same way. The unconscious stores emotional memories, learned behaviors, hidden fears, and beliefs you've absorbed since childhood. Most of them operate silently in the background. Modern neuroscience supports this idea. The brain is designed to automate repeated behaviors to save mental energy. Habits become faster and require less conscious effort over time. That's useful when you're brushing your teeth. It's dangerous when the same automatic system controls your beliefs, relationships, and life choices. For example, if someone grows up constantly criticized, they may automatically assume they're not good enough. Even when there's no evidence, they don't consciously choose that belief. It simply feels true. Jung's warning was simple. Until you become aware of these hidden patterns, you mistake them for your own personality. In other words, many people don't choose who they become. They simply repeat what their unconscious has been teaching them for years. Part 2. The hidden programs. If the unconscious is controlling you, where did it get its instructions? Carl Jung believed that long before we start making decisions, our minds are already being programmed, not by a single person, but by thousands of small experiences. Your parents teach you what's normal. School teaches you how to fit in. Friends teach you what gets accepted. Social media teaches you what deserves attention. None of this happens overnight. It's repeated so often that these ideas begin to feel like your own. Psychologists call this social conditioning. One of the clearest demonstrations came from the famous Asch conformity experiment. Participants were asked a simple question with an obvious correct answer. Yet when everyone else in the room intentionally gave the wrong answer, many participants did the same, even though they knew it was incorrect. Not because they were unintelligent, because the human brain naturally fears standing apart from the group. That instinct helped our ancestors survive. But today, It can stop people from thinking independently. This is why trends spread so quickly, why opinions become identities, why people often defend beliefs they never truly examined. Jung believed that unless you question these hidden programs, you don't actually think for yourself. You simply become the voice of your environment. And the most dangerous part, it doesn't feel like programming. It feels like this is just who I am. Part 3. The Shadow. According to Carl Jung, the most dangerous part of your mind isn't the part you know. It's the part you've spent your entire life hiding. He called it the shadow. The shadow is made up of the traits, emotions, and desires you reject because they don't fit the image you want others, or yourself, to see. Anger, jealousy, greed, fear, the need for approval. Ignoring these emotions doesn't make them disappear. It pushes them into the unconscious, where they continue influencing your behavior without your awareness. Modern psychology supports a similar idea. Research on emotional suppression has found that trying to push unwanted emotions away often makes them return even more strongly. Instead of disappearing, they consume more mental energy and can influence behavior in unexpected ways. Think about someone who insists, "I never get angry," yet they're constantly sarcastic, passive-aggressive, or explode over small problems. The anger never disappeared. It simply found another way to express itself. Jung believed the people who seem the most controlled are not those who deny their darkness. They're the ones who recognize it and take responsibility for it. Because the greatest danger isn't having a shadow. The greatest danger is believing you don't have one. The moment you stop pretending the shadow doesn't exist, it stops controlling you from behind the scenes. Part 4. Why most people never wake up. If these unconscious patterns shape our lives, why don't most people ever notice them? Carl Jung believed the answer wasn't a lack of intelligence. It was comfort. Questioning your beliefs is psychologically expensive. It forces you to admit that some of the ideas you've defended for years may not even be yours. The human brain naturally resists this. Psychologists call it confirmation bias, a tendency to seek information that supports what we already believe while ignoring evidence that challenges it. That's why two people can look at the exact same facts and walk away with completely different conclusions. Neither feels irrational. Both feel certain. Then there's another force, distraction. Today, the average person is surrounded by constant notifications, endless scrolling, short-form videos, and an infinite stream of opinions. When your attention is always occupied, you rarely have time to examine your own thinking. You're always reacting, never reflecting. Jung believed self-awareness requires silence, not because silence is magical, but because it's one of the few moments when the unconscious finally has nowhere to hide. Most people never become conscious of their inner patterns because they're too busy escaping them. It's easier to stay distracted than to ask difficult questions. And that's why, according to Jung, many people don't live their lives. They simply repeat them. Part 5. Modern proof. The unconscious in the digital age. If Carl Jung were alive today, he probably wouldn't be surprised by social media. He would see it as one of the most powerful tools ever created to influence the unconscious mind. Every swipe, every like, every notification trains your brain, not through force, but through repetition. Behavioral psychology has shown that variable rewards that arrive unpredictably, are especially effective at keeping people engaged. It's the same principle behind slot machines. Social media platforms use similar patterns. You don't know when the next interesting post, message, or like will appear, so you keep checking, not because you consciously decide to, but because your brain has learned to expect a possible reward. Over time, this changes something even more important than your habits. It changes your attention. Instead of asking, "What do I actually think?" people begin asking, "What will get the most likes?" Validation quietly replaces authenticity. Jung warned that whatever remains unconscious will eventually direct your life without you realizing it. Today, many people don't just consume algorithms, they slowly become shaped by them. The greatest influence isn't the content you remember, it's the content that silently changes the way you think, react, and see yourself. And that's exactly how the unconscious works. Not loudly, but invisibly. Part 6. How to become conscious. If the unconscious shapes your life, can you escape it? Carl Jung believed the answer was yes, but not by fighting your mind, by observing it. One of his most famous ideas was this: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The first step is surprisingly simple. Pay attention to your own reactions. The next time someone criticizes you, don't immediately defend yourself. Ask, why did this affect me so much? The next time you feel jealous, don't suppress it. Ask, what is this emotion trying to reveal? Psychologists call this metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. Research has linked stronger metacognitive awareness with better decision-making and greater emotional regulation. This doesn't mean every emotion is true. It means every emotion carries information. Jung believed self-awareness isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. Honest enough to question your beliefs. Honest enough to admit when your ego is protecting you. Honest enough to recognize patterns instead of repeating them. The goal isn't to eliminate your unconscious. That's impossible. The goal is to stop letting it make your decisions without your knowledge. Because the moment you begin observing your mind, you stop being controlled by it. And that's where real freedom begins. Part 7. Ending. Carl Jung never claimed that becoming conscious was easy. In fact, he believed it's one of the hardest things a human being can do, because it's far easier to blame the world than to question the hidden forces within yourself. Most people spend their lives chasing success, happiness, or purpose, without ever asking the one question that comes first. Who is making my decisions? Is it really you? Or is it your fears, your childhood, your need for approval, your habits, or unconscious patterns you've never challenged? Jung believed that true freedom doesn't begin when your circumstances change. It begins the moment you become aware of what has been controlling you all along. That doesn't happen in a single day. It's a lifelong process of questioning, observing, and understanding yourselves. Because every time you replace an automatic reaction with conscious awareness, you take back a piece of your freedom. And perhaps that's Jung's most important message. The greatest prison isn't the one built around you. It's the one built inside your own mind, without you ever realizing it. The question is no longer whether the unconscious exists. The question is, how much of your life is it living for you?